Hi, I am Chitra.
I am Madhvi
I'm Jyothi.
I'm Suchitra.
Together, we are your hosts.
on the Aedge podcast.
We bring you stories and experiences
From our experiments around learning, marketing, and design.
These are stories of people, technology,
And people interacting through technology.
of what we see, create,
And recommend.
Today we're starting a series called Rarely Rational. Humans are rarely rational beings, and there is little surprise in the fact that we're prone to committing mistakes while decision making. The thought patterns that humans use to draw incorrect conclusions are what we call cognitive biases. In this series, we will cover topics of cognitive biases with an objective to encourage the study of behavioral patterns in humans and how it can be applied in various aspects of user experience.
Hello, all. Welcome to the Edge podcast. And here we are with another episode on UX and cognitive bias. Hi, this is Suchitra.
Hi, I'm Jyothi.
Together, we are going to discuss about the UX journey and what made us to get us into this journey and our experiences. So let's learn together and get started.
Do you want to talk about how you started your user experience journey, or what got you into the field of UX?
So I have a close to 10 plus years of experience in the field of software testing and BA. But I've always been keen on the usability of any product. So you know how a tester behaves or things, right? Always very intrigued about the end product and wanting to find more bugs because the more the bugs are, then you are proud as a tester. So I think this inquisitive nature or kind of too much questioning on how the product should be or how the experience, say when I'm going to use a product, how I should feel about the product, probably I think this interest made me think what is the hot selling cake now, that's user experience. So I think the interest, the fun that we had in designing a product or the experience that you need to give to a user made me more focused on this journey, and it just like that happened. So how about you, Jyothi?
So I come from front end development background, Suchitra. I have always been at the receiving end of designs, from designers, and I'm converting the design, bringing it alive on a website or a web page, and I've always done that work. And so that
Okay.
interest of mine got converted into learning more about user experience, and how designers design, and or why they do what they do, and or learning about the behavior of users, how users use a particular app, or an interface. So I think with the advent of the new age HTML5 and web standards, it was just more and more interesting for me about how mobile phones and smartphones became so ubiquitous throughout everybody's lives, right? Like you can't imagine how someone's life would be without a smartphone now.
Mm.
So that was just very interesting to me, and I wanted to also use my little bit of front end knowledge to also get into design. So that's how I got into UX design.
I think that's going to be a lethal combination, people, because aspect of being a QA person and one is into the journey of the development into UX. So you can imagine how deadly it is going to be. So yeah, so I guess that's an interesting point also here, Jyoti, because always when you design a product or when you get into the shoes of the user, so you will design or you will expect a product that has to be user friendly. But at the same time, as a QA person whom I have been, so it will be easy for me to refine the process or think in a way that this has to be a much better. So I think this is going to be an interesting journey for us to learn and improve ourselves in the path of UX. Okay, Jyoti, what in your opinion actually is user experience? I know we are in the initial path of this journey, and I know we have a lot to learn and explore in this UX journey.
So, for me, I think user experience covers all aspects of, the interaction of the end user. For example, say open an app on the phone to, how getting out of that app, that is completing his entire whatever path that he wants to do. So, like I said, from opening an app on the phone and finishing his journey, his user journey, or whatever action he wants to do, and pressing exit on the phone. So this entire action that a user takes should be considered while designing something, or the experience of a user through this entire journey that he takes. User experience should include, it's not just the interface, it's not just the layout of the app, or the colors, or the branding, or the visual part of the a product is not what user experience, or is not limited to that, is what I think.
Just like to add a couple of points here, in my opinion, what I have experienced or learned in my journey as a software tester or assurance person is, the moment I start using an app or a product or any application, it has to be very friendly, and ideally it has to address all the pain points of any user. So in my opinion, the user experience journey is something you address all the pain points, or envision yourself, or you foresee what is the problem that you will face as a user. So I would describe this more as a process where to define or fine tune your customer journey, with all the which includes the look and feel, the navigation, the process. End of the day, as you said, as I log in and as I exit out of the application or app, my experience should be smooth and not very cumbersome. So I think we are two different individuals who have expressed our opinion about what ideal user journey should be. But if we have to get onto the definitions, yes, it just refers to the feeling users experience when using a product or application or system. And end of the day, when I just log out or sign out of that application, I say, yes, this is cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good feeling to have at the end of your user journey. Yes, I think any designer would like to give that kind of wow moments for their users. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we discussed about this, Jyoti, I remember we doing a couple of projects for our client where we were doing UX audits or UX market research for them. I think that was a very good learning for us, where we went ahead by understanding their application and could address their pain points or note down what exactly is required as per the market standards, or how difficult it was to find each and every stuff, or how to understand the workflow, because to complete one transaction or one flow, how difficult it was for us to go ahead with that application in the first shot. So I think all those elements, right from making it easy, making it very clear, making it very intuitive, and kind of information specific, I think that was one good experience. What is your opinion on, Jyoti?
Yeah, so the project that we took up for UX audit was a great segue into our UX journey, right? Suchi, I think that was the first time I took up a serious client project and worked on aspects of user experience, user research, doing comparative analysis, and coming up with this audit report for the client was my first serious, like, billable project that I have worked on, and that was the project that also got me more interested in this entire journey of mine, and I started reading more about UX design and UX research.
That's absolutely true, Jyothi. I totally agree because for both of us, it was a great journey to get started. And I think it's going to be a fun ride for both of us to learn and explore more in this UX journey. Having said that, we are venturing into this UX journey and we are trying to learn a lot. I have been reading a lot about this cognitive biases, which is the key concept in UX also, right, Jyoti? Do you mind telling us what actually cognitive biases, and then we can take it further?
Sure, Suchi. So cognitive biases has been a very interesting topic for me of late. I mean, I am not any psychologist or any cognitive, scientist or anything, but this topic has just piqued my interest lately. Let's first talk about why this became relevant. Is the background is how humans make decisions, or how is human brain designed to arrive at conclusions or estimating any outcome. So
Yeah.
this is the background for talking about this whole concept of cognitive biases and user behavior.
Right, right.
So what I read was, apparently, it's easier for us to make quick and effective decisions than like sticking to facts and thinking rationally at all times. We prefer to act fast rather than thinking rationally. So that kind of nature of ours, that's the human brain's nature, would lead to some outcomes which are not always right. So there could be like an error in thinking and arriving making decisions in such a manner. This is how cognitive bias can be like a blessing and a curse. And that's how, say, in the field of UX, the designers make use of such tendencies of users in using these biases either for or against them.
Okay. So, as a layman, when I'm trying to understand what you actually spoke about this cognitive biases, Jyoti. So, instead of getting too deep into facts and numbers, I just hear a piece of information and I want to take decisions quickly based on these. So, I don't
Yes.
want to get actually into the data and facts before, not everybody though, but
Yeah.
most of the human mind process this way, that instead of getting into facts and figures, yeah, this is the information, this is what it is, and I'm going to take decisions based on this. So
Yes.
basically it's a psychological thought
Yes.
that causes the human brain to draw incorrect conclusions, right?
Yes, if you have to put, yes, that's a good definition actually, right there.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I mean, it's also mostly subconscious, right? It's not
Right.
deliberately that anyone is doing it. It is also, no one is immune to it. It's just that maybe we need to be more aware, or we need to, not arrive at conclusions too quickly, if we have to avoid biases. But I think that's a whole different topic about how to be aware of biases and how to avoid it. But
Yeah, I think we have a whole lot of other episodes also to keep discussing about the different cognitive biases
yes,
and what are the different categories that we are going to discuss. So stay tuned, guys. So we still have more to talk about it. You remember we were talking or reading about the Stephanie Walters article about the cognitive biases and how beautifully Lawrence Wagner and Stephanie Walter had segregated into different categories. I think that was more interesting for me because as a person who doesn't know anything about the cognitive bias, I think those cards and the way they had segregated it really helped me. So what do you think about it, Jyoti?
oh yes, that was a great article, and a great way to deep dive into this whole field of UX and cognitive biases. I think for our listeners, we can just tell them Stephanie Walter and Lawrence Wagner are two UX designers. We came across their article where they have segregated around 52 cognitive biases. Apparently, there are much more, but they have picked 52 and put them into categories like decision making, thinking and problem solving, memories and recalling. So what we wanted to do in this episode and the coming episodes is to talk about each bias and maybe how
In
we
different
have
categories,
encountered
yeah.
them in our lives.
I think that's pretty interesting, Jyoti. I think as we dive deep into these categories, we ourselves will start understanding what are the biggest mistakes or the decisions that we have been taking based on these biases. I think that is going to be more of a self-analysis than the cognitive bias. Might be, I don't know. So yeah, okay. So what is that that we are going to talk about it in this episode, Jyoti? I know we are going to pick up the first category which we saw. It's about the decision making and behavior. So do we have any specific topics under this category?
Yeah.
Biases under this category, if to be precise.
Yes. So today we would want to talk about a bias called the anchoring bias or the anchoring effect,
Okay.
which is the tendency for people to depend too heavily on the first piece of information they receive. What does this mean? I think we can maybe first I'd like to tell us an experience
Mm-hmm.
we can share, and I will tell you how that is related to anchoring bias. Is that good?
Yeah. Please. I think as you share some personal experience of yours, I'll also be pushed or I'll have the urge to say what I have experienced too. Okay. So that will
Yeah.
also put the listeners into a spot where, okay, I have also done this. So is this anchoring bias? Yeah. Let's get started, Jyoti.
So I was talking about my experience in booking autos via these taxi aggregator companies versus hiring an auto the pre-smartphone era way, right? So what I realized when I was haggling for prices with the auto driver on the road is I would always keep the target price as the price from company X.
Okay.
And I would make sure I would not pay more than that. And this was a very subconscious thing. I didn't realize, there was no rational behind why I would keep the target as the taxi aggregator company's price.
Right.
Right. So now in this, when we're talking about anchoring bias, so that price that I have in mind is my anchor.
Okay.
So if the company's price in the app would be say 150 rupees for whatever even if that price is actually very high for the distance that I'm traveling,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind about it, and
Okay.
I would only just make sure I paid lesser than that
Mm-hmm.
to the auto guy when I'm hiring the auto on the road. Did you see that? I mean, because I have
Yeah.
something to compare to now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm subconsciously keeping that as my anchor, and I'm happy to pay even 140 rupees or 130 rupees.
So
But even
just
100 rupees would probably be,
the
very
actual
high.
rate of the
Yeah,
actual rate when you have to bargain or say talk to the auto
yeah.
wala, right?
The actual
Yeah.
rate could be even lower. Like it could be like 80 rupees.
Right.
But
So you're saying that you were biased with the thought that okay, this is what the price was listed in the app, and I should consciously bargain with the auto wala and give something less. So basically, it's not about the auto walas or the app or the any service provider. So it's about the human mind that you're saying that okay, this is a data or this is the
that was the first
first
piece of
piece of
information,
information that
yeah,
I've seen on the
received,
app,
and I'm sticking to that.
and yeah, and I'm going to take any decision based on this. So here is what you have to look out, guys. So the moment you see some information and your mind gets anchored to it, and you start taking any decisions based on these piece of information, you are not ready. It's not that you might be, most of us are smart enough to think on the go and then do whatever is right, but most of our mind is anchored in a way that the moment you get this piece of information, you will start taking decisions based on these informations. With Jyoti's quick example of what anchoring bias, I would just like to add another example here, Jyoti. So
Yeah,
the
sure.
moment you told about this example, my brain just got ignited, and I started thinking. So there are many websites, right? Say I'm going to buy a maxi dress or a pair of sandals. The moment I see it in one website or any platform, so then I start thinking, okay, here is a huge discount. So then what happens, say mega sale, boom sale, so I fix my mind based on this particular website, and then I just start hunting for the same piece of maxi dress or sandals in other websites. So there they say it's going to be 20 rupees less than this or 200 rupees less than that. Then I start thinking, okay, they are giving 80% discount, so they are giving 50% discount. So the mind starts hunting, like, where ideally it's going to be the same rate, because they have put 80% and this person has put only 50%. Your mind starts thinking, okay, this is much cheaper than this, and you go for eventually you pay the same amount. So your mind is ideally getting anchored to the first piece of information that you see, and you start making your decisions or whatever you want to do based on this first piece of
Yeah, I
information.
think the online sales or even of the discount rate is example is a great topic of anchoring bias, right? Everywhere you see prices being scratched out and come written with a lower price. So yeah.
True. I totally get that. So, why do you think this anchoring bias is kind of important in this UX journey, Jyothi? So, would you like to throw some light on this? Like, what is your understanding, or why do you think it's actually important to know this?
Yeah, I think there is a term called heuristics that's widely used in this field, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what it means is it again, like we said initially when we spoke about the definition of cognitive bias, where we spoke about how human brains think fast. So heuristics is just another term that used to describe these shortcuts that people take. It's like these mental shortcuts you take to arrive at a decision or estimate an outcome. These this way of thinking is what leads to the errors that we make, right? This is what we established in the beginning of the episode. So why is anchoring bias important is because this way of making decisions is so pervasive in our lives. It's mostly subconscious. We don't really deliberately make decisions in such a way, but it will be good for us to be more aware of this bias that we have while making decisions. So one of the examples why this could be important is to talk about how we plan our projects or plan a particular task, and how we mostly tend to underestimate the time that we take to finish the task, or underestimate the cost of completing something. This anchoring bias could help us a lot in project planning. And there is also something called planning fallacy itself. That is, like I said, how we underestimate the amount of time it will take to complete a task. So do you have any experience in this, Suchi, that you would want to talk about, and we can
Okay.
establish why
So
anchoring bias is important?
first, to understand the topics or the points just you explained, Jyoti. So you say we generally tend to plan something, the initial plan, or the time, the effort, and the cost. Based on the initial discussions, we come up with a plan, and then we stick to the first piece of information, and we tend to run the project with the same mindset. So that is something which is related to the anchoring bias. Is that right? Is my understanding right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, then I think I have got a huge experience. So with couple of my clients, when I had to create project plan or do the planning, I would just relate to one such experience here. So with one of the client, we thought everything is going to be easy when they said, we have everything ready, we have all these details available, you just have to do some fine tuning, do some id work for it and everything, and then it is going to be a cakewalk for you, because it's not going to involve much of time and effort. So we estimated the time, the cost, the resource, everything based on these inputs that we had received, and we were so clear that okay, there is not going to be much of work. It's just going to be very simple work, and we are going to finish this project in a month's time. But as we got started with the project, you won't believe, Jyoti, the estimate or the cost or the resource or the time that each resource had put in was 3 or 4 times more than what we had estimated. There was a huge difference, and we couldn't believe that this much of effort was being put in a single project and we couldn't do anything else. So I think this is something which is not good for any project or for the team, in my perspective. So in some cases, yes, there are genuine deviations where you get a sudden requirement, or when you get a new additional requirement as part of the sprint. Yes, we can always take some time, do that additional effort and estimation and add it as part of that. But I think we'll have to be very clear, when you have a huge project or when you have a small project, you will have to give yourself that time buffer and that estimate, which is actually not going to be the same throughout the project. There might be some variations, but you should not stick to the initial data and just keep running the project with the same timelines and deadlines, which might be very, very cumbersome for the team. So I think this is something which I'll have to definitely implement or learn, the anchoring bias, so that I do my project planning really well and it is going to be easy for my team. Yeah, thanks for that information, Jyothi. I think everybody can relate to this project estimate and planning experience when we are talking about the anchoring bias. So how do you think we will even tackle this, Jyothi? So is it going to be difficult? Because as you said, this is going to be a first piece of information that we start taking it throughout our journey, and we subconsciously do it. I know this is not going to be an easy thing, but when we have to apply this into a project, how do we tackle this, Jyoti? What's your suggestion, or what do you think we can actually do?
I think, as is the case with any kind of bias, even anchoring bias happens subconsciously. When you're not aware of it, interrupting a bias can be difficult. But one strategy could be to make evidence-based decisions, meaning instead of being subconsciously stuck to or anchored to one piece of information that you receive, maybe come up with reasons on why the anchor is inappropriate for the situation. When we talk about examples like prices while shopping online or anywhere, maybe reason out why the price is appropriate in that situation, and then go about buying or making decisions about buying. And again, in the example of project planning, or talking about the planning fallacy, we have to come up with reasons on why we are anchored to the initial plan that we made, and why that could be inappropriate for the situation, and be able to adapt and update our plans. So that could be one strategy in how we can tackle this anchoring bias.
Okay. So, just to reiterate what you said, just to understand it in a better way. So, you're saying that if I'm going to come up with a plan, and if that is not going to work out, then you're saying that don't stick to it. So,
Yeah.
you just
Be
see
open
what
to-
is better for that situation and come up with a better plan, and don't get stuck with the
Right.
single plan for throughout the project, because it
Yes.
might keep changing based on the situation.
Yes.
So, guys, this is it. Don't get stuck with one piece of information and keep making
Questioning
a right
or-
decision, or keep questioning, as Jyothi said, to as
If-
what better you can do for that particular situation, and just not to relate. Yeah, of course, that first piece of information is always handy, but don't get stuck to that piece of information and keep making right decisions based on the situation. Yeah, so I think this is more fun, and I'm going to enjoy every bit of this UX journey and the exploring cognitive bias together with Jyothi. So
Yeah, this is
you have a
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, I am excited about this journey, and Jyothi as well. So we will keep talking to you more on the different biases and the different categories or different experiences that we had in our personal and professional life, and it's going to be more fun. Want to know more and learn more about these biases? Stay tuned to Aedge.
Please subscribe to the Edge podcast on your favorite podcast channel. We are on Google, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. If you liked this episode, please share it with your friends. If you have stories to share and want to be featured on our podcast, write to us at podcasts@adepticlabs.com.